Oh, hey, what is up, everybody? This is Quasar with Fries, episode 9. Yay! We're almost to the double digits. Yes. My name is Rich, and this is Wayne. We both do work for OWC, but that is not why we're here.
No.
I mean, Wayne, why are you here? You're here to drink beverages in front of everybody on camera?
You just slurp out of this cup, and also the vibes.
Yeah.
The vibes are impeccable.
Yep. French fries and gossip. That's what we do here. One of these days,
sit here.
One of these days, we're gonna bring some French fries. But you know, if we keep doing this I don't know, are French fries okay in the morning? I guess it's like hash browns.
That's yeah. There's really no difference. That is a it's just potatoes in a different medium.
Right.
The hash brown or the French fry. But yeah, you're right. Like if you walked in somewhere eating French fries in the morning, can you even get French fries? Is there anywhere that's like selling
Probably
French fries before 10:30?
They'd probably be like, we don't do French fries before 11 a.m. And you're like, yeah, but you do hash browns and breakfast potatoes. You're like, yeah, but not French fries.
Like, listen, you sociopath.
Totally. What world do you think you live in right now?
Those are acceptable breakfast foods.
Yeah. Get over
we
yourself.
should also, you mentioned gossip. Yeah, we should totally have an episode where we just talk about people we work with.
I'm not sure that our jobs would last much longer if we decided to go down that path. Maybe we could talk about people that other people work with.
Hey, yes. Hey,
companies.
Drop a comment. Is there anyone that you guys work with that you hate? Leave us a comment.
Yeah, what a fantastic and uplifting segment that would be.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, because we don't have enough complaining on the internet as it is right now, you know.
Yeah, we could always use some more. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, right now it is Friday while we record this, so I will say TGIF, and I hope everybody has a good weekend this weekend, even if we actually air it, you know, next Tuesday and confuse everybody. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Well, let's dive in. We got tons of Apple stuff. They've been rolling. Yeah. They've been doing this kind of rolling thunder, one off at a time rollout thing for the last couple of weeks now, which is a little bit weird for them. Right. Usually they have like the big splash and the big bang. I mean, Wayne, you got a whole bunch of stuff to kind of cover here, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, this is our new segment where we just kind of like quickly hit the headlines. So let's hit the headlines.
Hit those headlines.
Let's hit them hard too.
I need to.
All right, so
I'll set up a sample thing so I can start adding like whip cracks and stuff like that too, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So yeah, first up this week in the news, and so kind of like just to kind of give you guys an idea very quickly, like we're gonna try to keep all of this very kind of like techie and creatory, and so we'll hit on some tech stuff, but we'll also hit on some stuff that's really kind of aimed at creative stuff, creative tools, audio, video,
life experiences,
music.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Creative.
Yeah. Okay. All right, yeah, we could do that.
Hey, creatives have a very weird journey that is unique and not like a sales guy or a hardware engineer. So, you know.
That's right. You know, therapist recommendations.
Yes, got lots of those.
All kinds of stuff. Like you alluded to, though, first up, we had a big week in terms of, or Apple had a big week in terms of Mac releases. Instead of doing a big kind of like event for October, they did just kind of like 3 days and 3 separate kind of videos that they just released on YouTube and I assume on Apple TV Plus, but also press releases. And so these are the new M4 Macs that kind of came out. The first one that came out is the new M4 iMac. So they're in very pretty colors. That's going to be like, I feel like the biggest draw with the iMac is that you can get it in green, and the green is really nice, but it's also, these are being upgraded from I believe M2 to this new M4 chip, and so if you're, and then the previous ones were M1, so if you're coming from one of those, you're in for a pretty big boost in performance.
So I have a quick question. So
yeah,
like most well, I wouldn't consider myself an Apple fanboy, although I do like their gear and their UI and industrial design. Like most people who are a fan of Macs and monitoring some of these events, the first thing we do once a new one comes out is we run to the website, we start building out what it would look like in our shopping cart and fantasizing about the fact that we probably don't have $8 million to spend on a new iMac. However, I noticed when I went to this one, and I went to I think it was the most powerful one of the bunch, as
Okay.
far as options. That one I was forced to choose blue, so it doesn't look like,
Really?
yeah, like I didn't see a colorway option in a drop down or anything. Is that a thing, or are these?
So yeah, I mean, because like specking these things out is kind of so it's got the M4 chip in it,
Yeah.
and the base model, the one that starts at $12.99, the base model is a binned version of the M4 chip. So it's only got, of the 10 core CPU and 10 core GPU, the binned version only has an 8 core CPU and an 8 core GPU. So then if you spend a little bit of extra money, that's when you can get up to the actual like regular version of the M4, which is 10 core CPU, 10 core GPU.
I
so
see.
I'm
Okay.
assuming you spec'd out the higher CPU core
Yeah,
version of the M4.
I did.
And so you went all the way, like highest
Yeah,
RAM, and
I did.
I think it goes up to 24 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, the only thing that I didn't max out was the storage, which we can get to why, because
interesting.
Mac.
I wonder if that's like an availability thing. Like,
Yeah,
eventually they'll all have that, but like right now, the only ones that they have left, maybe there was a run on just like fully spec'd out iMacs.
I got excited to be able to
blue is
choose my color, but then I got there and it was like,
You'll have blue,
yeah,
and you'll like it.
yeah, because we're Apple and we have decided you love blue now. Okay, got it.
But yeah, the iMac folks, and these are just really kind of great computers. I mean, for like those who are just not gonna do very much, but even still with the M4, it's a great chip. So that's the new iMac, new colors, basically the M4. Oh, and then the other big news across all of these new M4 Macs is that the base model of every one of these new Macs, the iMac, the Mac Mini that we're going to talk about, in the MacBook Pro, no matter what you get that's M4, that has the M4 inside of it, you get 16 gigabytes of RAM finally as base. So like as standard. So
Oh, wow.
you don't, yeah, there's no more 8 gigabyte Macs. And they even updated the MacBook Air, the M3 MacBook Air, with 16 gigabytes of RAM too. So it's not a new computer, but now if you're ordering one of these newer Macs, you're getting 16 gigabytes of RAM standard, which is like, it's honestly about time. But it looks like that's tied to the AI features,
Yeah.
and kind of the demands of those new AI features.
Nice.
So, but you do get that. The next up, it was the Mac Mini. This is the one that I'm excited about, and I'm going to order, and I'm literally still trying to decide, like, should I get the M4 Pro version or the M4?
Yeah.
So again, the Mac Mini does not have the binned version, so the only M4 that you can put inside the Mac Mini, the base model is only $599. You get the non-binned 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU in the Mac Mini.
This to me is amazing, dude. Like,
oh, dude, it's yeah.
I saw how small this thing was, and if the person's hand who's in that photo holding the thing is probably not as big as mine, so the thing probably fits in the palm of my hand, like like a little.
It's 5
chip.
inches by 5 inches.
Yeah.
The previous one was about 12 inches by 12 inches. So this is like more than half the amount of volume.
And
than the old
I
one.
love the iMacs, but the biggest problem that I have with the iMac, number one, is they don't go bigger than they never.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they never gone bigger than 27 inches. And like when you're dealing in the video editing world and the audio editing world, you really need a lot more real estate. And so
27 is as low as you should really want to go. So 24 is just too small.
Yeah, and for me,
so the new ones are 24.
The Mac Mini's rad because it's definitely going to be more powerful than my 2018, 2019 iMac that I have now. But it now kind of frees me up to justify buying one of those wonky, crazy, super wide, 48-inch wide LG or Samsung monitors that I would use anyway for gaming, editing, and all that stuff.
The M4 processor is a very display driven kind of like update to the M series lineup. Like if you'll remember, M4 first came out in the new iPad Pros, and the reason they put M4, everyone's like, why are they releasing this processor or this chip system on a chip with an iPad? Like, why wouldn't they wait for the Macs? The reason was because they needed the M4 to use the display on the iPad Pro that they wanted to use, which is like a dual OLED display. It's like a very, very nice OLED display that's inside these new iPads.
Yeah.
So it's already a very display-driven processor, and so getting this little Mac Mini, like, yeah, you can kind of go crazy with your displays. Yeah, the other big kind of upgrade with the Mac Mini, apart from just obviously like the fact that it got a lot smaller, went from that 12-inch by 12-inch size to 5 inches by 5 inch. So it's just a little bit bigger than like an Apple TV. But like with the Mac Mini, like it's also, you're getting the M4 Pro is an available option, and so the M4 Pro kind of, I think it goes from 10 10 cores on the CPU up to, I think, 14 core CPU on the M4 Pro, and then it doubles the GPU performance. So it's a pretty sizable, like, going from the base model. You can get the Mac Mini for $599, which is just a crazy.
That's crazy.
To me,
that's
like, just a crazy deal.
It's almost
like,
Windows prices. I know I'm going to get struck down by Steve Jobs from the heavens with a lightning bolt for saying that, but
how dare you? But yeah, you can get a Mac now for $599, and if you go through the education store, you can get it for $499 because it's $100 off.
Yeah.
So if you have a EDU address, you can get it for even cheaper. But the cool thing about the Mini is that it's super small. It's got an M4 in it, which is, their most powerful, base processor yet. You can get it for $599. If you upgrade to the M4 Pro, you go from $599 to a $1399 price point. So it's a pretty, but the thing is, like, you can get this M4 Pro, you can get, I think, up to 36 gigabytes of RAM, and then like 2 terabytes of storage. So you can have like a very powerful little computer that sits in a footprint of about 5 inches by 5 inches, which is just crazy. Like, it's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Some people are like mad because it's got like the power button is on the bottom.
Yeah, whatever.
The other big news with the Mac Mini, the iMacs have Thunderbolt 4 ports on them, and I think you can have either 2 ports or 4 around back. The Mac Mini is, along with the MacBook Pro that we're going to talk about in a little bit, the Mac Mini, when you upgrade from the M4 to the M4 Pro, you go from having Thunderbolt 4 ports on the back. So the Mac Mini has 2 USB-C only ports in the front, and then around back there's 3 Thunderbolt ports. If you go with the base model or the M4 regular chip, you get Thunderbolt 4 ports. Something we're very excited about here at OWC is that if you upgrade to M4 Pro, you get Thunderbolt 5. And Thunderbolt 5 is a really, really big deal because Thunderbolt 5 basically doubles your bandwidth, and enables kind of like even higher speeds on hard drives. Like, we just announced a few months ago the new Envoy Ultra, which is a Thunderbolt 5 drive that can give you speeds up to 6,000 megabytes per second.
So crazy, dude.
Which is just
insane. I think we've all been waiting for the bus speed of USB and a Thunderbolt and stuff like that. We've been waiting for that to go to the like major next level for a long time, and so now with Thunderbolt 5, it's like, okay, now the cables and stuff are no longer going to be the bottleneck in a lot of our workflows creatively, which is a huge blessing. It's like nothing is more frustrating than buying like some expensive screaming fast SSD hard drive, and maybe you have a system that is like packed with CPU and packed with memory and stuff like that, and then you connect it with a cable, and it's just like the interface that's available to you at the time just sucks. Just it's all the kinks and all the chains, basically,
Yeah, I mean, and the other benefit too with the Ultra being Thunderbolt 5 is that Thunderbolt 5 is completely backwards compatible, and because it is capable of such fast speeds, even if let's say you get a Mac Mini or this MacBook Pro that we're going to talk about, and you spec it out with Thunderbolt 5, one of the Pro or the Max chips, is basically like you have to get the M4 Pro or the M4 Max processor to unlock Thunderbolt 5 on these computers. Let's say you do that, and maybe you've got another computer that's Thunderbolt 4 or Thunderbolt 3, and you're like, well, you're not going to get the same 6,000 megabytes per second that you would get on the Thunderbolt 5, but having the Envoy Ultra is still good because it basically ensures that you're getting the absolute fastest speed that your computer can handle. So it's still a useful thing to have.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have all Thunderbolt 5 devices, or maybe this time around you're only going to get the base model, but maybe in the future it's a future-proof drive. So that's really cool. We're actually we're going to be shipping those in the next like week or so.
Yeah.
So the pre-orders are open now. So check out lwc.com for that.
It's going to be incredible, dude. I can't wait to have an M4 processor with Thunderbolt 5 and a Thunderbolt 5 SSD drive.
And then we're working on a dock too.
Yes.
So more goodies.
Yep.
So yeah, the Mac Mini, I'm gonna that's a day one for me. I can't wait to kind of free up some space on my desk. And like I said, I'm just trying to decide, is it worth it for me? I really think that for a lot of my workflows, the M4 is so good on my iPad Pro. Like whenever I think I want to edit some video on my iPad, and I do that every once in a while in DaVinci.
Yeah.
And so I use DaVinci on my iPad quite a bit. Whenever I do that, it's just butter. It's just very smooth. And that I've got an M3 Max MacBook Pro that I'm using right now, and I really think that I could probably sell this M3 Max, and then I think the base model Mac Mini is going to be enough for me. But we'll see.
So very
cool.
We'll see until you pull it up and you start looking at your options. That always happens to me. I'm like, oh yeah, if I just compare the base, because I did that with the Mac Mini when they announced it. And I looked at just the baseline options. I compared that with my current older iMac, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to blow my current iMac out of the water. But for an extra $200.
Right. Well, see, what I kind of fell into was the trap here, like with this computer, is that I was like, I want 36 gigabytes of RAM, and I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. So I think it's awesome that I mean, 16 gigabytes, I think a lot of people are still kind of like, that's really pushing it. Like, you really need, it's like, well, for my workflows, I really don't. 16 is going to be more than enough.
Yeah, totally.
For me.
Yep.
And then one other thing I never do is I never upgrade the storage. If it's going to mean $200 or $400, like, that's why I have, Envoy Electrons right on my desk, right? That are 4 terabytes and super tiny.
We try to make sure that we're not salesy on this podcast, but I have to say, OWC, having worked at our competitors in the past in my career, I've never used storage gear like them and been able to actually legitimately tout how amazing it is. I'm totally outfitted with it now, and now it's like you can get baseline anything from Apple and then get, in some cases, twice as much space for the buck, basically. And it's also portable, so I don't have
Super
to
portable.
I can take it with me, and use it with my other iMacs. Yep.
This is a 4 terabyte hard drive right here.
Yep.
And it's smaller than a pack of playing cards. Here's I'll show you some AirPods for scale.
Dude, I have to come back.
Old AirPods.
I have one too. Yeah. Seriously, these things are super
We've all
great.
got our little electrons. It's one of like the first things that we all kind of like when we start working here, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, like these things are incredible. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get my Mac Mini, and one of these little guys is going to stay connected to it on my desk.
Yep.
So,
dude, it's great.
That's my plan.
Sweet.
My plan. $599 and a lot of power for the Mac Mini. We'll finish up the Mac stuff with the new MacBook Pros. The main thing with the MacBook Pros is that you can get M4, you can get M4 Pro on the new MacBook Pro, and then you can also get the new M4 Max chip. So the M4 Max chip is basically, you step up from M4 Pro. The M4 Max, you go from a 14-core CPU to a 16-core CPU, and then from a 20-core GPU to a 40-core GPU in the M4 Max.
Dang.
And it's also got 500 gigabytes per second of unified memory bandwidth and a neural engine that's 3x faster than the M1 Max. So who's interested in the new M4 MacBook? Well, so the new M4 MacBook Pros, there's a lot of folks out there, and I don't even know if even this is going to convince them to upgrade, because there's a lot of folks that are still using M1 Max MacBook Pros. Look, and here's like a little pro tip. If you're looking for like a fantastic professional grade laptop, and you want a MacBook Pro and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, the M1 Max, if you can find a deal on that, probably less than $1,500, and you're going to get performance that is still really, really good. There are people that have had that computer for like the last 2 or 3 years though, who are looking to upgrade, and I think the M4 Max is going to be, they're going to see a huge upgrade, and that's already a great computer.
Yeah.
So that's really who the M4 Max. No new design, no kind of like hardware changes other than they have introduced on the iMac and on this MacBook Pro a new front-facing webcam, 12 megapixel center stage camera. It doesn't look like it's like any better image quality wise, but I guess we'll kind of see. They're usually pretty bad.
The front-facing cams are terrible in almost every laptop. Period.
Yeah, to me the most exciting thing by far, beyond M4 Max and just like crazy power, the biggest thing by far, the most exciting announcements were Mac Mini, and then the fact that they're finally pushing the base RAM up to 16 gigabytes.
Yes.
Moving on, another headline that we were kind of looking at this week and thought was cool was that Amazon has released its very first color e-ink screen in the new Amazon Kindle Colorsoft Kindle Colorsoft. $280 for color e-ink.
Oh, that was on the Verge. Yeah, let me I'll pull that guy up here real quick.
But it's based on e-ink's Kaleido technology and uses an entirely new display stack for Kindles. So that's kind of why it's a little bit pricey. But it looks really good. I've seen comparisons of this next to kind of like the Kobo e-reader. And the Kobo is a little bit more detail in the darks, whereas the Kindle one is a little more contrasty. But if you like reading, manga, or you like reading, comic books and stuff, and you want to do that on an e-ink screen, this new Kindle looks like it's going to be a really good option if that's worth $280 to you.
Nice.
So, yeah. Moving on, another kind of huge headline that literally happened just today. Apple is acquiring Pixelmator, which makes the amazing Photoshop alternative Pixelmator, which is the same name as the company, but also the Lightroom alternative Photomator. So I use both of these apps extensively, and so like they fit. Photomator, like I said, is a Lightroom and a library management alternative to the Photos app. So obviously Apple Photos has like a built-in editor and library management.
Yeah.
Photomator sits right on top of it. So like it does non-destructive changes to photos inside of Apple Photos. So everything is synced. Like you don't have to generate new files. It actually syncs those edits, and it all stays inside of Apple Photos. So you edit something inside of Photomator, hit the done button, and then go look at it in Apple Photos. All those changes have been applied, and then you can undo them as well.
Oh,
like that's
pretty
very
dope.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's very cool. So it already works like a built-in app, and so it makes sense that Apple is acquiring them.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like surprising because like Apple made the Aperture photo editing app for years as like a professional grade photo editing app, and then around iOS 7-ish, I think when they moved, they were like, we need to go to like a unified, the Mac has the same app that the iPad has, that the iPhone has, so it's all just Apple Photos now. And they moved some of Aperture's feature set into Photos.
Oh, okay.
But you lost a lot of like professional grade kind of tools, like clarity or dehazing or spot. They've eventually over time kind of filled in some of those spaces, but Photomator really kind of it's a true Lightroom alternative if you really want to keep your photos inside of Apple Photos. So it's a great kind of like prosumer thing.
I'm excited to actually, because I do have used the Photos app to do a lot of those, a lot of editing, after the fact. Like if I just go do a quick road trip, get a bunch of photos with my phone, go in there and actually have access to editing through there. But now if I can actually expand on that a little bit in terms of functionality, look, and stuff like that with the Pixelmator thing, that's pretty dope.
You can do like the color grade. See, like one of the things that Photos doesn't really let you do is go in and actually like apply kind of like color grading edits to your shadows. And Photomator lets you do that type of stuff.
Rad.
So you can kind of create your own presets and it's got some built-in filters and stuff like that are kind of useful. The big thing to me that it has that I've been using a lot lately, it's only $25 a year. So I don't know how that pricing is going to change. It's not clear whether Apple is going to scrap the current apps and then I hope they don't do that and then like stuff those new features inside of Photos. I really hope they keep Photomator as like maybe make it Aperture again.
I know.
Like maybe this isn't the new Aperture.
It's pretty common for the big companies to acquire some cool little company and then try to just fold in what they bought them for into their native thing. You know, Meta's done that with some stuff.
Yep.
I don't like
Instagram.
it. Like, exactly. Keep them separate, you know. So
anyhow. But the other cool thing that they have, and they've had kind of like AI cleanup type things that now Apple Photos has built in as well.
Yeah.
To me, one of the best features inside of Photomator, and again, Pixelmator is like a Photoshop thing. I haven't used that nearly as much as I've used Photomator, but one of my favorite features inside of Photomator is the machine learning based denoise. So it's not as powerful as like a DxO or the one that's built into Lightroom now, which are like AI, and they use the neural engine inside your Mac to kind of like do a phenomenal job at denoising. It's not that good and that powerful, but if you've got a JPEG based workflow, let's say you're using film simulations on a Fujifilm camera or the film simulations inside of like a Ricoh GR3, and you're putting in straight out of camera JPEGs, and you're just like, I want to do exposure and contrast, and I just want to like the very light settings. Oh, but I shot this at 3200 and it's super noisy. Photomator can clean up a JPEG that is like super noisy very, very well. So like this is cool. This is very cool. Like it'll be interesting to see what Apple does with these, but kind of scary at the same time. Like neat, good job, Pixelmator team, and congratulations on getting some bank from Apple.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Right, to the founders of Pixelmator.
They're like, I'm done.
Happy retirement.
Exactly.
But for everybody else that like uses these, I think everybody's kind of like, please don't mess this up, Apple. Please don't get rid of these or don't put them into Photos, because like Photomator is on my iPhone home screen because you can actually use it as well as like I just want to look at a photo. And then I'll dig into the editing tools. But also, Sennheiser has got a new wireless microphone system out this week called the Profile Wireless. So basically, just kind of real quickly, we've got this up on the OWC.com blog. This is a very modular wireless microphone system. It's really perfect for podcasters or video content creators, marketing teams, or people that are doing all of the different types of shows and stuff like that, because it's a lav system, kind of like the DJI mics or the Rode Go mics.
Yeah, the Go ones. Yeah, I've used those a lot.
Where you can put the main receiver on top of your camera like we have pictured here, and then you can kind of do like the whole microphone just kind of clips onto a lapel or something like that. I
do like that the receiver has the screen facing you to be able to monitor input levels and battery life and stuff like that, because that was one of my biggest problems with the Rode Go mobile.
The Go,
was you have to I always have that thing mounted on the hot shoe on top, and then I have to like pull my camera down to look at it and see where it's at, or actually go look at the other units themselves manually. And I think because I know I haven't used it that much, but the mobile app that goes with the Go mobile, you can get that information from. But again, I don't want to have to be like looking down at my phone. If I can just keep everything within eye shot, of what I'm doing, then great.
It's super useful. Totally. The DJI mics have that type of screen. Like honestly, like I went from the Rode Go to the DJI system, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'll never go back. Like the sound quality to me is actually better. The wireless performance is a little better. I don't know what your experience with the Rode mics were, but I would go into like a trade show or like just a real crazy environment where there was lots of Bluetooth signals, and those mics would crap out a lot. But I never had that problem with the DJI mics. These look like this looks like they looked at the DJI mics and the really nice carrying case that the 2-pack comes in, because it's got this really nice hard plastic case that charges them. It's got a battery built into it, so it keeps them charged whenever you take them off of the charger, and it holds the receiver and the 2 mics. This looks like they looked at that and they said, what if the case could also be like a microphone stand, or it could be like something that you could do a handheld mic with. So they they really kind of it's really cool. It's a very modular system, and so you could do a podcast with
Yeah,
this.
it
You
looks like
could
they're
do
considering all the possible scenarios if you're doing like man on the street interviews, like you just said,
exactly.
podcast stuff, and everything in
And it's kind of
between.
wild,
So
like how hard, you look at the man on the street stuff like that, and I think TikTok has made the handheld microphone like fashionable again. Because I
yeah,
think for a long time, like YouTubers were trying to hide the microphone. Like there is no microphone here.
yeah,
It's like a shotgun mic on top of, or like they've got like a boom
yeah.
or something
Now
like
they're
that.
almost
But like,
elevating, like passing it around,
look at my microphone.
like oh,
I'm
check
holding
it out.
it.
Yeah, and they're handing it to each other, and that's like part of the joie de vivre of the social
Yeah.
media post or the shot or whatever.
I don't know
That's cool.
who this
I
is,
don't
but
know.
there's somebody on TikTok that does like they've got like a mic and it's clipped to a subway card, and they talk to people on the subway, and it's like they're both talking into subway cards, like subway, like metro tickets, essentially. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's not cool
Right.
to hold a microphone
Right.
anymore. So this is dope. It's like $200-$300 I think, and it's up for pre-order now. You can go to B&H or the Sennheiser website.
Nice.
And then finally, in the last week, another cool thing that we saw launch is our friends at Clever Supply Company put out a dope new camera bag called the Sidekick Pro. So they make another bag called the Camera Sling. That's been fantastic. It's like a 6-liter bag. This new Sidekick is a 2-liter bag, and it is basically perfectly sized for like mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
Like you could get an A7 IV and a small lens into this thing. It's basically like for people who, I don't want to carry my camera on a strap
Yeah.
all the time, but I dig the idea of having it in this nice little kind of like satchel.
I mean, this is definitely
It's a satchel
this smells like a hipster man satchel. Let's be honest, but
for sure.
they're very
it's
nicely.
a little bit.
They're nice bags though. And I am kind of a
They
sucker
are.
for their logo. To be honest, the little
Fox
little
guy.
fox guy. It's kind of dope. Yeah.
I dig it too. I think it's nice. So this is a Kickstarter campaign right now, and they're still available. The backing is still available, and you get a little bit of a discount for ordering right now. They're supposed to be starting shipments earlier this year for like the initial wave
Yeah.
of these orders. It comes with this cool little camera cube, padded camera cube that you can fit down inside of it. So let's say you've got like a smaller point and shoot
Mhm.
or like a Ricoh GR3 or maybe even like a smaller Leica or something, and you want to you don't want it rattling around in this thing. You can
Yeah.
put it in this cube, and it keeps it nice and
I'm
nice and
almost
safe.
I'm almost always putting extra padding in my camera bags to separate things from clanking together anyway. So that's pretty.
This one comes with a built-in thing that you can easily take it out too, as you can see in that photo there. But like it's got little pockets for your batteries or
Yep.
flashlight or any other type of lighting, and then there's even like a zipper pocket in the front, and then there's one around back that I can't remember, the quick access pouch is what they call it, but it's like nice and soft. You can put your phone in that.
Yeah. Sweet, dude.
Just immediately popped in my head. Like, you could put your weed in there. That's what the quick access pouch. Maybe that's what it's for.
Hey,
I don't
you know,
I don't want to put words in Clever Supply's mouth, but
we live in that era.
You probably could
so
put your weed in there.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's got some quick attach straps, for putting a tripod or your jacket or maybe a water bottle on it. It's such a novel idea. They also make awesome leather straps, hand straps, and neck straps and stuff. So check out Clever Supply. Check out this campaign on Kickstarter if you're into the idea of a very small, very kind of like camera-sized camera bag.
Yeah.
And something that's not massive that you can throw it on your chest. It's very cool.
Right on, dude.
Way to go, Clever Supply Co.
We love you guys. Even you're gonna.
They shot their campaign using OWC Atlas memory cards, so
Oh yeah, that's the extra bonus.
we already know that they're on the right wavelength.
Yeah.
So
They're already on.
go buy their bags.
They're already on board. They know what time it is.
Yes.
Well, let's see here. So next up, we're going to switch gears from the headlines. Something that is very near and dear to our heart, which is the lives of freelancers. A lot of them in audio and video production, constantly dealing with storage issues. It's their livelihood. How slow or fast their storage is from SD
It's
cards
literally
already
like
drives.
trying to get
You know.
moments of your life back,
Yeah,
dude.
they're trying to like OWC actually helps a lot of these filmmakers and stuff get some rest for the first time. ever.
Yeah, for sure. I can tell you many, many times where I have not been able to go to bed after a long day on a trade show floor because I'm sitting there waiting for 2.5 hours for 80 gigabytes of raw footage to come off of a V30 SD card.
It's brutal. And you're not doing that at a reasonable hour of the day. It's
it's already 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've done some trade shows and some other gigs and stuff too, and it's like you get back to the hotel and you get to your hotel room at 11:30 p.m. and the next leg of your day is just starting, and it's like,
and they're like, "You coming to dinner?"
Oh yeah, dude. I can't tell you how many amazing paid for dinners I've missed and how much free alcohol I've missed just because I'm like,
for sure.
I'm here dragging and dropping folders from SD cards through crappy readers into a computer, and I'm just gonna sit here and order a bunch of room service and cry myself to sleep in loneliness. But
hoping that the little application that keeps my Mac from going to sleep doesn't let it go to sleep so that these files can successfully copy and that I don't have to do it all over again.
I've actually had situations where I fell asleep while it was copying, and then I happened to wake up in my clothes like 2 hours later at 3 a.m, and I noticed what you just said happened. And you're like,
man.
Oh, dude. And then the next morning they're like, hey, it's 7:30 a.m, man, we're having breakfast. You gonna join us? I'm like, no. I'm still copying files, and I'm strung out on no sleep, so strung out on coffee,
it's not good.
And French fries, eating French fries at 2 a.m.
Yeah, we're so a big part of this company is literally just trying to give
helping
you tools that give you time back.
All the audio, all the AV people out there, we feel you, we love you. The freelance life is not an easy one. My first exposure into that was 2019, just before COVID, and I was getting hired to run out and do what you just said, some trade show stuff, go fly out somewhere, do a couple of corporate interviews for case studies, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of perks to being a freelancer, and not doing the day job thing. Guaranteed remote work. You get to control your schedule. One of the extra perks is you can usually steer clear of office politics.
Now hold on a second. When you say politics, do you just mean like people opening your office door and going, Rich, you got anything going on?
Drive-bys. The office drive-by, that is one, definitely. But the other thing is when you have people inside of a company and they are trying to do creative decision by committee when they're looking at video you just shot, photos you just shot from a show, a marketing campaign, what have you, you don't have to be part of that decision-making process. You just have to sit there and wait for them to tell you what they want, which sometimes there's even fallout past that, to be honest. Like you'll give them what they said they wanted and decided on, and then later they're like, yeah, well, my CMO just took a look at it because I forgot to show them when we were going through the review process, and now we got to undo all this other stuff and go this completely different direction. You're like, well, I get paid hourly, so sweet.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, Rich, so kind of what we want to talk about is it helpful to be remote, or does it hurt to be remote as a creative or a freelancer, right?
Yeah, I think with creative, it depends on what phase of the creative process you're in. I think in person is best if you can pull it off when you're ideating for the first time a project, a campaign. There's this energy exchange that happens in a room full of creatives that are getting pumped up on stuff, whether you can explain it or not. Like physically you get like excited and when you're brainstorming and riffing off of each other, and you have those like stereotypical setups, photos of offices where they got post-it notes all grouped all over the wall and people are eating pizza and all that shit, right? Great. But like
all that garbage, camaraderie and teamwork,
all that crap, but
I go back and forth on that type of stuff though, right? Like, and I think that's also part of it is like sometimes it is fun to be like around other people and to like celebrate successes together, but like I don't know, and I feel like you feel this way too, but I felt like more often than not being in the office just subjected you to a lot more kind of like grief that distracted
Yeah.
from the creative process.
Grief. All I heard was like a funeral organ when you said that just now. I'm like, death to fun.
That's
Here we go.
That's
yeah.
a nice word for BS.
Yeah. Totally.
Distractions and stuff that
again,
like actually keep you.
It comes back to
it.
the phase, right? So if you're in the ideation phase, that can be cool. But when it comes down to the execution and production of things, that's when I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, I got shit to do now. So get out of my hair. And then the other thing is when you start delivering rounds of comps, whether you're a graphic designer, video person, even audio, everybody's going to hear different things. And I think I bitched about this on LinkedIn the other day, but like the idea of creative decision, like final decision by committee, is a nightmare. Like if I can avoid that at all costs, I absolutely will. I'm going to try to pull up this meme on LinkedIn that I found the other day. But
my issue with decisions by committee is not necessarily even like the committee aspect of it. It's just the idea that when it is a group of people, you often get people who don't. Okay, I'll give you a particularly nightmarish example.
Okay.
Going over, like, we're picking a logo. And then you've got like
that's all you have me a logo.
The CEO is like, I think this should be our logo, and it's kind of like, all right, well, you got to listen to that because, and again, let me make this clear. This has nothing to do with OWC because OWC has a great logo already, and we're good
on our generally
this
speaking.
Is just
life
something I've been a part of.
Yeah.
The CEO is like, okay, and you're like, all right, well, cool. That's good that he knows what he wants, but then he's basically like open to what does everyone else? And then invariably, it's kind of like, are we talking? Is it a group of designers? No. Is it a group of creatives? There's some. Invariably, it's like the guy in finance is like, oh, I like this logo, and I think we should do this color scheme. You're like, what are you doing here? Why are you involved?
Yeah. Well, when you have
you're not a designer. You're not.
Yeah. I like when
even
you have
in marketing.
Like, when you have the regional sales manager for North America saying, I really think we should dial down the purple a little bit over here. You're like, yeah, go sell things.
Even
like,
then, I could even understand that because like they're like meeting with the people. They're out there like press and flesh.
Yeah, but unless
press and flesh is a really gross phrase, by the way.
It is, but it's also a great band name. So
Would anyone in 2024, if you were like, I was out there pressing flesh, would they immediately go like, oh, like handshakes, like making sales?
It would depend on depend on the genre. I mean, if you were in a metal band, it might be passable, but if you showed up as like a Christian country band, press and flesh might not go over too well with your fan base.
A country band.
Right.
Yeah, I said press and flesh to like really kind of like show off like I know salesy terminology, and then I was like, why did I say that? It sounds so gross.
So here's the meme that I found along the lines of creative. So it just says the 25 people who needed to review and approve this creative work feel it lacks a singular vision. Now this is
why does this feel so frenetic and messy? It's like because it
is. And like
it was a Facebook poll.
Yeah,
that's why. That's how this
poll,
logo was created.
And like 95% of the people in the room that were asked for their opinion have no business being involved in a creative decision for a company or a brand or whatever.
So I think that is like a great first kind of like bullet point or rule for like creatives and freelancers. Like, is it better to work at home as a freelancer?
Right.
And like you said, often be presented with kind of like, this is what we would like. Can you do that for us? Versus being in an office where your work is, and again, in my experience, as a creative, your work is often submitted to judgment by committee.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me. Like, why can't we keep this within like the team or the marketing team? Like if you work within a company and your work is isolated or maybe even protected or insulated to the judgment of your peers within that same team or group, and it's all creatives, and you are lucky.
Yeah.
Because often it escapes that, and you're now like I said, like a salesperson or someone in finance is like, why'd we go with that color? Or like, hey, have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
Where I saw it on Instagram, and it's like,
yeah,
it just messes everything up.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's really annoying too is if like people in other departments that are not creative, they feel that it's totally okay for them to comment on what you did, even though it's not their wheelhouse. But if I were to go to some sales guy and be like, "Hey, bro, why don't you show me your workflow for keeping track of your calls and dealing with Salesforce and stuff," and then start making recommendations, they'd be like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna fight you and punch you in the throat for even like." They'd be like, "Stay in your lane, man," and you're like,
Also,
"Okay,
I would never. I don't care. Who cares? Like, but that's the thing, right?
yeah,
That's the thing.
yeah,
That's really boring. It's
yeah."
cool to pick a new logo.
Yeah, I think people want to
And
be able to
exciting.
do something fun in their jobs, especially in finance. They're probably like, "Oh, they get to deal with colors and pretty pictures. I really wish I was a creative person, so I'm going to go put all this energy into this because when I go open up a spreadsheet in the morning, it makes me want to kill myself." But
And look. It's not their fault. Look, in any of the past stuff, I never got like mad or frustrated with the people
Right.
who are making comments. It's always kind of like, who allowed this to happen? Like, why did we open this up?
Right. That's the other thing
to-
too. My recommendation too with that stuff is be very selective about your
Mm.
audience throughout the entire creative process. Like who gets to see that you're even working on this?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
be
that's
very,
yeah.
very picky about that because it will backfire. And the thing that I noticed too is the biggest issues happen with companies whose product or service does not involve creative people. So
Mhm.
they think that anybody can comment on marketing, content, messaging, color schemes, fonts, like you name it. They almost always think everybody in the company is qualified to do that instead of, "Hey bro, like this isn't your house, like go to your house over there." I have a friend who used to work at Twitch and he was the creative director there for a while. And man, I was so envious because I went and visited him over there and they had huge bullpens full of creatives. If anybody walked over and tried to comment on anything or request something with like a drive-by comment in somebody's cubicle, you were met by an army of like hostile creatives that were like, "Yo, follow the process, and this is not something you even can have an opinion on."
Well, and apart from
They
even from
value
that,
that,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. And I think that like the process, when we talk about the capital P process, there's usually like there's the creative process, yes, but then there's like there should be an established system with checks and balances, honestly, on once something is ready for review, what does that chain of review look like?
Right.
Who is inside that circle of trust?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that's a lot of times that is the issue.
Yeah.
Of kind of like, hey, could I take a look at it? It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone through our checks yet, and we'll let you know whenever this thing is kind of like ready for
you. Yeah, exactly.
Right, the rest of the company to kind of like take a look at type of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of like times, and maybe it's just like medium-sized companies where it's kind of like, the CEO is involved, or maybe the CFO or CMO. And typically if a CMO is involved,
Yeah,
it's going to be
and
like
that's
he's going
cool.
to keep that locked down.
Because a good CMO is paying very close attention to vibe and emotional experience when they consume a color scheme, a logo, a brand experience. But asking if a CFO is adamant about having the opportunity to comment on graphic design, like you're run away from that company. Like,
that's true.
Like
that is
100
true.
miles an hour. Like go away.
And sometimes it's a smaller company, and like the CEO is kind of spearheading. Like let's say it's like this. Like they don't have the marketing function to do a graphic designer within the company. And maybe you're a graphic designer and you're doing this like a logo. Again, the logo is just an example, but it could be an ad or a set of photographs, or like maybe they want to put a bunch of stuff on. Get big photos printed up for billboards or elevators elevator prints or something like that. And they don't have kind of like the internal creative mechanism to do that. So you're freelancing for them, and it's more understandable there. But like in those situations, what you have to be prepared for is that if that's the situation, the CEO is definitely, or whoever you're talking with, is going to farm out the review to other people in the company. And so it's always really good to have like, I've got 15 options for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take it personally which one of these that you guys create, because I don't have any stake in this. You're paying me to
Yeah.
create whatever it is you like.
That's where the freelance thing is great, because you're not a
That's
full-time
who cares?
employee. And this is back to the office politics thing. It's like, if any office politics affect the timeline, you get paid for that. Now, I will say the one thing that is a challenge, this happens whether you're a freelancer or you're an internal employee, is, you know, when you have a project, you have a timeline, and it's broken out into increments. I'm trying to get the right angle of my camera here. And you have a schedule. So these people have to deliver this by this time, so that this by this time, this by this time. And then at the very end is usually when the creatives have all the final approved everything. So they have to actually execute on producing everything. But nobody ever takes into account that the only deadline that's not allowed to move is ours. So if they screw up their shit and they don't get it done in time, it just keeps getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And our deadline hasn't changed. It's still right here. You still got to deliver this shit. But now, we used to have 4 weeks to work on this, and now we have like 5 days to knock it out. And this happens as a freelancer. This has happened to me many times. It's also happened. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I wasn't planning on working on Sunday for 16 hours, but because you guys couldn't get your shit together internally and you're the client, I just have to do it so I can get paid because I signed up for this. So my recommendation to freelancers too is pay very close attention to which clients are really worth the money and which ones are not. Because some of them,
you got to protect your time.
You do, because like you're still a human being, and you don't. I'm sorry, but you don't have to be somebody's just because you're a freelancer for a living. Like if the client, you can very diplomatically approach them and go, "Hey, I don't think that I'm the right vendor for you, but here's 2 or 3 other people that I can recommend." And then you make sure that if you're recommending friends, let them know what's up. Be like, "Hey, if you're willing to put up with this kind of bullshit, then you know these guys pay well and whatever." Yeah,
that's one of the negative effects of like Fiverr specifically that I've seen, is that it's Fiverr put a lot of like C-suite folks under the impression that this was just like free labor.
Yeah.
Like Fiverr is, I mean, there's, you know, some consulting and stuff that goes on, and you know, you can kind of communicate and get revisions and stuff like that, but it kind of puts it into, I've listened to like executives talk about like, well, we should just do Fiverr and you can get someone on Fiverr to do it. And it's almost like we're going to go to the logo store, or I'm going to get on Etsy and tell someone to design a logo.
We go to logos.com and just type a word in and it changes the font.
Which is like a super toxic, it's a that automatically, and I'm sure a lot of Fiverr, you know, people, I'm sure Fiverr is fantastic. This is one of the things about the internet, right?
Well, it has levels. Like, Fiverr has levels. I explored it for a little bit. They do have people that once they get a certain amount of like positive reviews, all of a sudden they can charge more, and now they get elevated, and then their work is higher quality, and they can, you know, all that is good. But there's definitely this like dumbing down of creativity that has gone in there in terms of value, assigning value to creative work, that it's definitely forced a lot
exactly.
Of us to take
it has that's exactly what I was thinking, is that it has really kind of devalued it devalues the work, yes, but I think it also devalues the process, because they think that this is a transaction. And I'm going to pay for something, and then I'm going to get the thing. And that's not how creative work works.
Right.
It's a process, right? So I mean, like, look, I'm sure that there's lots of people, it's, again, there's good and bad, right? Fiverr has meant that it's easier than ever to freelance things that you might be like. I remember their initial marketing campaign was kind of like, do you have a nice voice? Like, have you ever thought about freelancing as kind of like a VO type person? You can do it on Fiverr. And it's like, I'm sure there's people who are like, I think I do have a nice voice, and maybe I should do some, like, you know, local, and they're making some side income now as kind of like a voiceover artist or whatever, that would not have been possible without Fiverr. And that's super cool.
I think that's great.
However, there's also kind of like the democratization of things, and just kind of like, we've talked about this with like AI, and like, okay, it's easier than ever to just like make fake stuff look very real. It's easier than ever to go get someone to design your logo. It's easier than ever to kind of get hats for your company retreat and stuff like that. There's good things about that, and then there's also things that kind of give people the wrong idea about how easy this stuff is to do.
I think
And that
the
sucks.
higher end stuff is now being saved for human beings to do it, because
Hmm.
when you get into higher end creative, you just can't it's you can't rely on AI to generate like literally the work for you anymore. Like you might be able to use AI tools and Chat GPT and Midjourney to like generate something that could be sort of the catalyst for a creative
Right.
idea or like a baseline for stuff. I've seen people use that for set design and films where they're like,
Yeah.
make this thing in this style and this kind of lighting, and they don't
It's
copy what it
it's
gave them, but they're like, oh, that would be a great way to approach how I'm going to design this
right.
set,
Yeah, it's
so
just like if you're coming up with copy for a certain campaign,
yeah,
or like tell Chat GPT to give me a bunch of puns or phrases or
yeah,
commonly used phrases for this that I can kind of play with and tweak a little bit.
yeah,
You can do that with images and stuff too. I mean,
yeah,
so like again, it's like you said, it's like it's good and it's also bad, and
yeah,
it's kind of like
it's weird.
you it to me the net negative of something like that is that it's not necessarily like a bunch of like C-suite folks thinking that they don't need a marketing department or a creative department or a graphic designer. It's kind of like I think the ones before they get to that level think they'll just never need it
Right.
because we can just go on Fiverr, and it's kind of like, well, hold on, like, how important is this?
Yeah.
Like, is this an important thing that your company is doing? Do you want it to have a good logo? Do you want it to have like a fully thought out kind of like identity?
Right.
Then you don't need to go on Fiverr for that necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. Fiverr
Like,
Fiverr is like, you're either gonna pay a normal amount of money for like the high end people on Fiverr to do shit right, or you just need some assembly line, straight up grunt work, that just has to get done, but it's like the work nobody wants to do, and it's work that somebody who just really needs some cash right now on Fiverr is willing to do. I've taken that work
right.
before. We're like, here, can you please go add video bumpers to these 53 Zoom presentations? You're like,
That's a perfect use of
you're
Fiverr.
like, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. I'm going to charge you 60 an hour to do this, and but yeah, if you're cool with it,
Yeah.
I'm cool with it, and then you just then you basically
And
just
there are lots of things
yeah,
like that on Fiverr, like data entry type
yeah,
stuff. I mean,
yeah,
that's basically
and that's cool.
harder data entry, but
Yeah, it's
yeah.
cool. I would say too, a recommendation for folks that are freelancing is marketing and PR budgets are the first ones to get cut, and that's usually what
Yep.
creatives fall under in terms of projects and stuff like that. So always make sure that when you are setting up your freelance business that you ask for a deposit. At least I've been,
Retainer, whatever you want to call it.
something. Yeah, I've even
10,
said like,
20%.
yeah, I've even said 50% if the project is big enough, and like you gotta have like a tuned radar for this stuff. Like after you've had some meetings with a potential client who's ready to bring you on board, do you get the sense that people change their mind a lot? Is it kind of a shaky situation? By demanding a deposit up front, you are at least making sure that if all of a sudden they pull the plug on something, which does happen, you got some cash in your pocket for the time you did spend maybe providing them with some revisions or starting the process or shooting. Maybe gave them a camera day and all of a sudden they
Yeah.
canceled the project. At least you got your 50%.
Think about
Yeah.
your time that you've spent
Yeah.
emailing and talking about this stuff. That's
part
your
of it.
time. That's not free. You spent that time.
It's time. It's
Right.
not what you're doing. It's the time you spent doing it. And that also
Yeah.
has value. So,
Well, how do
yeah.
you come out of that conversation thinking about kind of like freelancing versus like being a creative within a company? Because like honestly, you and I have both had those experiences. We've both worked as freelancers with companies and consulted with companies on creative projects. We both of us currently work within a company and on a great team
Yeah.
of folks, and so kind of like there's obviously pros and cons for both, and it's kind of like I feel like it kind of depends on. I know that for me personally, I would prefer to be within a company and on a team of people.
Yeah.
It's not so much important to me of being in person with them because, like, I think our team proves this well. We're all over the country,
Yeah.
and we work really well together remotely, and we're able to collaborate and
Yep.
make stuff like this show or do great copy and stuff like that. And we don't really need to be in the same place.
Yeah.
But I will say, if I was doing maybe more design focused work, I think that would be maybe something that I would like to be in the office for.
Yeah.
Or especially like hardware related design.
Oh gosh,
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
there's definitely there's pros and cons.
I prefer being within a company on a team rather than just like freelancing.
Yeah, well, freelancing, the challenge with freelancing is, yes, you're your own boss. Great. But that also means that you are the salesperson, you're the marketing person, you are the IT person. When you got in your domain's email went down, like, you're all of a sudden, like, the stress level can definitely be increased quite a bit. It just depends, I think, on what you're looking for in life and maybe what your personal situation is too. Do you have a family? What does the economy look like right now for the line of work that you're in? You know, like, you need to factor all those things in before deciding what's really right for you. I see pros and cons in both. Currently, I'm with you, man. I'm super happy with the creative team that we have here. Everybody's really open, and we actually have creatives that work in our company and do audio. They are filmmakers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are writers, and so
right.
that makes me feel like I'm not just some creative guy surrounded by a bunch of like tech and finance people, which has been my situation at other day jobs, you know. So
well, and that's like, I think another thing that working at this company is, and I know it probably just sounds like, well, of course they're going to say positive things about the company they work for on their podcast, but it's kind of like, I don't know. We've you know, hopefully as this conversation has showed, we are very comfortable working on our own or with a team as freelancers or as part of like a marketing team within a larger company. And so like we've seen both sides of it. And I think that within a company, another thing that this conversation has showed is like it has to like meet certain criteria for us. Sorry, I had an itchy nose. just a little itch.
That's going to be its own reel right there, by the way. I'm going to loop that
please,
for like 30 seconds.
I hope so. Yeah, hell yeah. So I think hopefully what this kind of like shows is that we wouldn't just like say these things if they weren't true, but or you know, just to say them. The other kind of big thing that comes out of this, to your point about kind of the usefulness of kind of like one of the things that we had talked about earlier was networking and kind of like making sure when you're at a company like ours that has like the varied kind of varied amount of people with like diverse backgrounds that come from audio, that come from video, that come from photography, that come from doing YouTube stuff or just kind of social media stuff. Like we have all these different kinds of backgrounds, and the value of that not only is that you get kind of exposure to all these different kind of like expertise and opinions and stuff like that and experience, but then those are people that expand your network. Right. And, you know, a huge tip of that is like a big pro of being a part of a company is like there is built-in experience. Like you said, if you're freelancing and it's your business and you've got like an LLC or something like that, it doesn't matter how successful a lot of times like whether you will be successful or not is like how well you're able to build your network. When if you're a wedding photographer or an events photographer, and something falls through for somebody and they think, oh, I should call Rich, like, because he's great and I know that he'll be able to fit me in. We have a good relationship.
Dude, that's where almost all of my freelance work came from.
Yeah, those are the relationships. That depends on, like, I was in school with a girl in my MBA program who she was an event planner. And I thought this was one of the most baller things that I'd ever heard. So I go to meet with our cohort one semester, and she's like, she had moved from like Atlanta to Birmingham, Alabama. And I was like, are you an events planner? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, you moved though. Like you were doing events in Atlanta and then you just moved to Birmingham and now you're still just doing events. And she was like, yeah, it was pretty stressful, but like, you know, it had been something I'd been working on for a while. So what she had to do was rebuild her entire business around a new city. Yeah. Like, can you appreciate like how difficult that would be in terms of like you have to have all new contacts. You have to like know all these
Nobody
different
knows or trusts you yet.
Owners.
So now you're like, you're not the go-to anymore. Yeah.
I was just like, you're the most baller entrepreneur that I think I've
Yeah,
ever met.
that's
Like,
a
I
tough
will,
spot to be in. You know, I can't say
yeah.
that.
And she just chose to do that,
Yeah,
dude. She didn't have to. She chose to move and kind of like restart her entire, deal. And I think that is definitely one of the built-in advantages. Like, if you're a freelancer, maybe every once in a while get into kind of like corporate or these types
yeah,
of maybe more traditional kind of jobs, whether or not it's remote or whatever is going to be.
yeah. I've known freelancers that have basically taken day jobs just for the reason you just said. They're like,
Yeah,
I need to
networking.
update my network, so I'm gonna go work somewhere for a year, meet a bunch of people, get paid to do what I do at corporate events, shake hands. And then down
Yep.
the road, man, when you leave that situation, like I was saying, almost all the freelance work I've gotten has been from the day jobs that I've had, because they're like,
Yeah.
you killed it when we worked together in marketing at this company 5 years ago, and I know you're the guy. And so they start referring their friends who have companies who need your services. And like, you don't even really have to market yourself anymore. You just keep getting inquiries. It's a really great
Yeah.
place to arrive at, but that is one of the perks of actually doing the day job thing every once in a while. And I would say too that another reason to put yourself in a corporate environment and a day job environment as a freelancer is if you can get some visibility into the mechanics and the dynamics that they're dealing with internally. When you're a freelancer, it's going to give you a little bit more empathy for them when they are kind of annoying.
Yes.
As a client, it's going to give you.
Yeah, we did a lot of like bitching and complaining about kind of like how stuff typically
Yeah.
works within an org chart or like a corporate structure, but sometimes it's not their fault.
Yeah, and I found myself going to bat as somebody who's working at a company and I'm managing a creative vendor agency. I found myself going to bat for them, like say they're not getting paid on time or whatever. Like, you understand internally why it's taking so long. Oh, because so and so has all these other things they have to do, and they got these policies in place, and they got all these, all this like crap that they're dealing with just to get you paid. So when you're a freelancer and somebody's telling you, hey man, sorry you didn't get your check last week, at least you have that built in, that you understand that there's forces at play that they just don't have any control over. And that makes your experience, at least gives you a little more fuse, to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Stuff.
The other thing about, and the last thing that I'll kind of add to everything is like the thing that this advice depends on is that you're working your butt off. Like, you're doing good work.
Yes.
And that, because one of the things that I've learned, in the professional world is that not everybody runs at full speed.
No, dude.
And not everybody, and so if you're someone who does run at full speed and you grind and you work hard and you
think like an owner, basically.
Yeah. And you do good work, and it's important to you to do good work and to do the best job that you can possibly do. That, like, to the point that you said, like, that makes an impression on people.
Yep.
And if those people leave the company, or if those people go off and do other things, and then they go, oh, who would be really good for this? Because he did it for me all the time, or she did it for me all the time whenever I was over here.
Yep.
That's super, super important.
Yeah.
So,
and it turns into work for you, so it's great. Well, sweet, man. I say we wrap it up here. I hope you, Wayne, have a great weekend.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Thank you, man. I love you, man. All right, cool. So, everybody, thank you for listening, watching. Please comment, subscribe, share, reach out to us. We're very nice people, even though I'm not as attractive and handsome as Wayne is, but we'll still talk to you. And have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon.
Later, guys.
Later. Peace.